Namastrange. The weird in me recognizes and bows down to the weird in you. This phrase was used to inaugurate Boom Festival 2022. This short video is about this amazing event which has just finished a few days ago. Were you there? Are you a boomer from other years? Are you boom curious? This is my personal review about this last edition and a few reflections about transformational festivals in general, especially at this time when the world is hitting an intersection of multiple shitstorms. Briefly, for those of you who are totally new to Boom Festival and these sort of events, Boom Festival started in 1997 as a goer trance rave, and over the years it's turned into, I think, the most incredibly well-organized event, possibly one of the most international gatherings of the human being on this planet, committed to cultivating freedom and love. That's the implicit and the explicit message, and a spirit of, I would say, collective evolution and integration. It's organized and run mostly by a Portuguese team with collaborations from the whole planet. It is these days recognized to go way beyond psychedelic trance music, although psychedelic culture is definitely still the heart and soul of the event. I think Boom is extremely visionary. It's considered to be a transformational festival. I'll speak a tiny bit about this afterwards. I'd love to highlight that it's incredibly coherent ecologically in terms of sustainability. It's actually won many prizes and even established a guide for other festivals to replicate. And if you check out the website, go to the section of environment to understand why it's a source of inspiration to so many. I mean, you name it. Compost toilets for 40,000 people peeing and pooing every day, reforestation projects, eco building, very little plastic, very little metal, gardens, giving a great example of permaculture design applied, intelligent water management, you name it, it goes on and on. So to speak about Boom is incredibly challenging because it really takes a lot of anthropology and sociology because there's so much happening. There are so many realities. We all come from so many different places with such different cultures, origins, sense of perception, values. So there really are so many things. It's impossible, and that's the wonderful thing. It's impossible to label it down into one official little packet. I'm definitely not going to do that. I'm just going to highlight my greatest interests at this event. I mean, personally, I love psychedelic trance music, but also the world music, the ambience, and the side chill, and everything that is part of the packet. So there really is anything you want to find musically. It's always going to be high quality. It's never going to be mainstream. It's always going to defy commercialism. It's always going to be deeply artistic. So basically, with the music aside and the art aside and the ecology aside, I'm just going to be speaking about some of my favorite highlights that are especially related to the liminal village and the workshops. But before that, what is Boom about in general, at least for me? Well, I've actually been on the site 6 times at this point for 5 Boom editions and 1 Being Gathering edition. And I would define it as a mixture of a training in survival and self-reliance. 1, because it's extremely hot. 2, because it's very dusty. 3, because the distances are large. 4, because it's massively intense. 5, because there's a lot going on and it's all new. Then I'd also say it's a massive opportunity for learning, just learning loads about yourself, about life, learning about concepts, about new practices which are necessary and helpful at these times. Then it's just, it's a massive opportunity to have fun, to get up to all sorts of mischief, to celebrate, to become very playful. It's a very welcoming opportunity for experimentation and a bit of general madness. It's a wonderful invitation to the feeling of freedom. And finally, last but not least, for me, it's actually a spiritual temple of a sort. The design of the structures, of the temporary eco buildings that are set up, the beauty, the land art, everything you bump into, the diversity of origins, the diversity of peoples, and the explicit recognition of spirituality. It all just makes for this sort of experience of transcending religions and identities into our commonness in spiritual existence, spiritual perspective. It's hard to put into words. I cannot do much better than that. Okay, but Boom is also an opportunity for empowerment in many things. Like, I started organizing my own festival as soon as I got back from the first edition I went to. I started organizing other gatherings. I became more involved in activism. My level of courage pretty much went up like that. And anyway, so that's more or less what it is about for me. It's a great opportunity to do things that you don't usually do that much. It's basically just an opportunity to explore yourself and your relationship with other people and existence in general, I guess. I usually try to press my own boundaries a tiny bit further with some things. I'll give you an example. I spent more time naked than I usually do. Okay, so let's get into my personal highlights of this edition. And maybe you will resonate, maybe you won't. Basically, this edition has happened at a time in which I myself have been facing a lot of ecological anxiety, a lot of climate anxiety, a lot of fear of worst collapse scenarios coming at us really quickly, so quickly that we can't catch up and we just end up in a horrible situation of violence and destruction, you know? So, I mean, I'm very involved with trying to make this transition, trying to contribute and help to this transition. So when you're actually really involved with these things, you're also exposed to a lot of really, really depressing, challenging news, really difficult stuff to deal with. So when this edition came up and I managed to get a ticket, I wasn't feeling too good with life in general. And to be honest, I was really afraid of the heat at the Boomland, and I was really afraid of traveling logistics. I mean, since there's so many cancelled flights, the energy crisis, blah, 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 you know, everything is collapsing. Don't know quite at which speed, but it's definitely collapsing. And in 1-2 years, the world is going to look so different. So anyway, I was aware of all this, and I actually felt lazy about trying to get myself to Boom somehow. Anyway, so I go with a Boom bus through nearly desertified Spain. I see no trees. I see only yellow. I see dry cereal crops. I see a perfect apocalyptic scenario. I see drought. I see biodiversity collapse. And I arrive at Boom feeling fucking awful, to be honest. And anyway, so I then realized that there is actually an explicit invitation to share grief, fear, despair. They have organized these collective check-in sessions on a daily basis. Now, this is not entirely new at Boom Festival, but it is more encouraged. It is like more explicit. The invitation is more clear, more defined, more powerful. And so that totally resonates with what I do with the Extinction Rebellion, with other social movements that I'm involved with. And I know that we really have to share our grief and our fears openly in supportive situations so that we can keep coping. It's the way it is, my friends. We really need these spaces. We really need these moments, these times. We really need to be able to break down. So thank you, Boom organizers, because you provided me with that. And some of you watching this video, maybe you were there, but I mean, I took the microphone on the first collective check-in, and I was one of the first to speak, and I broke down. I really literally did break down, because I spoke about my fears, and I spoke from the heart, and I cried all the way through, and maybe I spoke for about 10 minutes. And I said a lot of stuff which is just really scary and challenging, but I was incredibly supported. Some people afterwards said that sort of helped them to, connect with their own shit as well and like bring it forth. So I'm happy if my process was helpful in any way. I have to say that was the moment when I landed and I arrived at Boom. Because before, I was just carrying this immense burden. And I also met some people on that first day, some permaculture lovers, people with projects. And they heard me out and we heard each other out. And we gave each other hugs. And we looked each other in the eye and we shed some tears, And all that was for me, like arriving in safety. Like sanity is not fucking spiritual bypassing. I'm fucking sick of spiritual bypassing. Will you please stop doing that? You need to come and cry, Stop spiritual bypassing. I'm sick of escapism. If you're escaping, you need help. It's just like me. That's what I'm talking about. Haven't you noticed? We all need support. We all need help. Escapism only makes things worse. So, thank you to the wisdom of the organizers and all those who showed up and appeared for me and for others, because I really do think that's the best way of landing here and now. And that's what happened for me. That's what happens. Thanks to that, I could party, I could celebrate, I could connect with others, I could feel that we were on the same level and that it's all good. It's challenging times. We're going to go through massive adaptations, but in essence, we are one, we are different, we are diversity in unity and unity in diversity. And we can make it through whatever comes at us, as long as we show up for each other emotionally. And that means collective check-in sessions quite often. I think we can all bring this social technology home with us. We can all bring this social technology. It's really easy, basically. Basically, you just create a meeting at the beginning or at the end of an event or halfway through. And this can be for anything, for your work, but even more important for your community. You create a space where we're going to listen, only listen, taking turns. We're not going to give advice. We're not going to tell you what I think you should. I'm not going to tell you what I think you should do. We're only going to listen. And this is really, it shifts a lot of things. It's really helpful for both parts. And you might use some questions. Like, for example, if you wanted to check in about how this whole boom has been, you might use questions like, what did I love most? What was the hardest? Who did I meet? What did I learn in my process? How is it affecting me now that I'm home or traveling? What do I want to revise in my life? How do I feel differently? What has shifted for me, for my view of the collective? And this moment for us human beings in the Anthropocene, facing multiple shitstorms at the same time. Okay, so what else I want to highlight? Well, I met loads of really, really, really cool people. I traveled to Boom by myself. I wasn't going to wait to see if other friends were going or they're in the mood. And then plus my phone messed up, so I couldn't really meet up with people on the site. So I was just in the hands of Synchronicity. Okay, Synchronicity, I think you do a great job going by what's happened to me all the other times at Booms. Basically, I ended up camping by a really nice bunch of people who are from the same region I live in Spain. I met loads of wonderful people. I re-encountered certain people, you know who you are, up to 3 or 4 or even 5 times in random different places. Though there are no coincidences with these things, I had very deep, honest conversations with people I just met, total strangers. I'm feeling sad, I'm really excited about this, wow, the girls are so hot, wow, having to cope with this, and with deep listening, this attitude of deep listening, of I'm not going to judge you, I'm going to give you space, I cannot really judge you, I need to listen to you deeply and understand where you're coming from. so that was definitely one of the highlights. Meeting, I've got, I don't know, telephone numbers of many, many, many lovely people. And if the telephone networks don't collapse, well, yeah, maybe we can be in touch for some time. It was great to meet you. Thank you so much for being my friend, you know, for showing up and for all the fun we shared. Okay, what else? Well, the moments of dancing, the moments of fun and color, the moments on certain flow arts, hula hooping, dancing like mad, the nudity, the freedom. And I think the safeness of women going around topless, sometimes even naked. I think it's really, really wonderful when women can do that, because the environment is safe enough. So congratulations to the guys. Thank you to the women. I hope it really was comfortable and okay. All those things just really, really feel great. Okay, so what else was so great for me? Well, the invitation to disconnect. This phrase that was written here and there that said basically, disconnect to reconnect. Something like that anyway. And it was basically referring to our cell phone addiction. But also, I'd say it's connected with no propaganda, no publicity policy of boom. So our minds are normally being constantly raped in this capitalist society. I mean, we're exposed to constant seduction stimuli, which is designed very finely to trigger reactions and our appetite of consumption and of having those things that are being advertised to us. That's extremely violent. That's extremely violent psychologically. You only really notice when you're at a place like Boom, where there is no fucking publicity at all. It just feels so good, especially because it's a big place, it's a big site. So you're really walking for kilometers and there's no raping, bombarding messages trying to target you and manipulate you. So this whole invitation to disconnect, which myself, I took it really seriously. I barely used the phone at all, only just to a few essential messages and a few photos. And this disconnection from publicity, propaganda, which has always been part of Boom's policy, just like all transformational festivals, it's just a really, really healing thing. If then you feel uncomfortable when you come back into the big cities well, that's a good thing, you know? That uncomfort is how you should feel, but we normally suppress constant uncomfort and learn how to deal with it somehow. But it's not really healthy to be adapted to a deeply unhealthy, dysfunctional world, right? So thanks, Boom, again, for reminding us of all that. Okay, then the really, really wonderful thing for me about Boom is not just psychedelic experiences, which can be really, really wonderful and enriching. It's also, I think, the commitment, the honesty and the commitment to bring home the message. Commit to awaken the world, it says on the wristband, which we were all given. Why do we need to awaken the world? Well, I want to highlight two things. Basically, because we really need it. As I've said, there's loads of process of collapse happening all at once. And two, commit to awaken the world. Sorry, folks. Sorry for this, okay? Because there may not be more booms, or not many more booms. Why? Because this time we were very, very close for it to being too risky for fire prevention protocols to have to stop the festival. It's true that the festival could be moved further towards spring or autumn, which I think a lot of people agree with. But anyway, I mean, we might not be able to hold these massive international gatherings due to climate reasons, heat, fire risk, and drought. You know, I mean, if there's not enough water for all those people, you have to start just thinking about doing smaller festivals, more spread out. And then there's the energy reason. I mean, diesel, kerosene, I'm not sure if I said that well in English, natural gas. We're reaching peaks, and we have reached many peaks. And then there's the geopolitics. People, big warmongering nations fighting, or governments, I'd better say, warmongering governments fighting and increasing the scarcity of the energies that this type of civilization has used and abused. And so suddenly international traveling is not going to be so easy and affordable, and regrettably it will be those with more money who can still afford to have these sort of experiences in the near future, and the rest of us will not really. So I think there's a key message here. I think it's important to accept that these festivals will slowly but surely slow down on their intensity, but there is room for more. There is room for more just as cool experiences. Smaller festivals, more located, with more pilgrimage. And now Boom has always promoted the experience of pilgrimage on bicycle, to get there on bicycle. So I visualize a future where thousands of people show up at places with their cycling bikes or their mountain bikes. And yes, we will move into what some call the great simplification. But there are ways about it. And there is something else to highlight. We all love these festivals so much because our normal life and culture is quite arid. We love these festivals because they are an antidote to the boredom and the monotony and the violence and the injustice and the artlessness and the soullessness of capitalism. Now, however, if we had more time in our lives, if we had closer nature connections, if communities were stronger, more humane, more empathic, and we were going wilder and crazier with art and dance and pushing our own limits as creative beings, would we need to travel halfway around the world to go to transformational festivals? Not really. Not really. Transformational festivals are to teach us how to have cooler lives, not to escape from horrible systems which are ecocidal and violent and suicidal, and have a moment of gasp for air for a moment and then go back to drowning. No, they're not meant to be for that. So we are experiencing collapse, and perhaps if we play our cards right, we can end up with a new social contract which is much better, fairer, and regenerative. And the reasons we had to travel to places like Boom will ultimately, diminish. And that would be a great reason to not go to Boom anymore, wouldn't it? Just imagine your life is like Boom. Anyway, so what else I want to highlight? I want to highlight the quality of the talks and workshops, which is just absolutely, absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, beautifully hosted by the whole Liminal Village team. Kudos, my total admiration. I went to about 5 talks a day. I have learned so much. I've taken so many notes. I've asked a lot of questions. I've spoken with a lot of really interesting people. And I mean, the choice of subjects and the frame, the angle on the subjects is, I find really inspiring. On one hand, the subjects are always really, really far out, really brave, avant-garde subjects, but extremely as well down to earth. This is something that for me summarizes Boom. Being really far out is not incompatible with being really nice and grounded. Being really nice and grounded is not incompatible with being really, really brave and far out and progressive in the best sense of the word. So the overall theme was the Anthropocene. The era, the geological but also ecosystemic era in which we as humans have impacted the dynamics and of planet Earth so much that it is a new era in itself. So this was an incredibly interesting subject to invoke at this time. And I'm really grateful that the whole festival, the talks, the workshops could be so explicit. No positive emotions bullshit, no promotion of escapism, as I said, no promotion of spiritual bypassing, and very, very grounded, solid, constant critiques of capitalism and the ecocidal and genocidal systems, and much praise and respect for much more healthier systems, which do exist. I mean, permaculture, regenerative, indigenous systems that are there to be recovered and integrated. So another point which I was very happy with, especially the liminal village, was the emphasis on desertification, drought, extinction of animals. I hope you all know it's way into the 6th mass extinction already. Really, really sad. And the emphasis on animal life, from bees to whales. Really, really, really cool talks and workshops about all these things. And then there's the talks on permaculture and sustainability in general. I also learned some permaculture techniques, visited permaculture gardens, learned about loads of the practices that they have in Boom, which are massively inspiring. And I really hope other festivals and events and human settlements, cities, can catch on with the good examples. And then there's the talks that I was able to sort of self-generate in a way. Talks with other activists, with farmers, with permacultures. All these talks in themselves were just something really wonderful. I mean, to be speaking with people who share the same love, the same devotion, the same interest, the same worries from all parts of the world is just phenomenal. I'm really, really happy that all you people who aren't necessarily into psytrance, but you are definitely eco lovers, you came to this festival so that we could all share and meet a bit better. Then something I want to highlight about Boom and all transformational festivals in general is the emphasis on integration. Okay, our civilization is probably, or civilizations in plural, are probably collapsing largely because of a lack of integration between science and philosophy, between mysticism and spirituality, and critical culture, critical thinking, a lack of integration between politics and ecology, between economy and politics. A lack of integration in general is surely what is killing us. So what you find at Boom is an explicit activation of the networks, an explicit extension and development of the mycelium-like connections between the areas of life, between the disciplines that we study as human beings. And that's what it's all about. That's really what it's all about. We've gone way too far. We've gone far enough with the specialization in different fields. It's about integration now. We need go no further when it comes to becoming more specialist at this or that. Now it's really the time. If there is to be a planetary healing and a regeneration and a survival for us human beings, it will be because we integrate now. Start doing it now. Start taking it really seriously now. Working on it now. So that's something which is always refreshing and exciting, and it creates a greater sense of space inside oneself, a greater sense of collective intelligence, a greater respect for the diversity of human beings, and that we're all here with a specific, role in which we can share, teach others, and enrich society. So anyway, okay, maybe that's enough for the for the wonderful stuff that I want to highlight. I've had the time of my life. I usually do when I go to Boom. How about for time for some constructive criticism? I've seen a lot of critiques on social media. I don't have a broad enough understanding to make to resonate, or with some of the critiques or not. I'm not sure that everything I've seen is very fair. So I'm not going to speculate. I'm going to keep just to the essentials. I think a lot of the criticism that I've seen is because, in a way, we're sort of overseeing, we're not being too fair with the fact that it's just very difficult to create this sort of event. It's harder than ever to make a temporary city in the middle of a climate crisis and of an energy crisis. Okay, so have a reflection on that, and after you've reflected on that, continue with whatever constructive critiques you think that Boom needs. Okay, so let's go with my first criticism. How come a movement as solid, regenerative, and compatible with Boom, such as Extinction Rebellion, was not explicitly present? Extinction Rebellion is an international movement. It's so compatible with Boom, it's ridiculous. It was even founded by one of the founders, Gail Bradbrook, is somebody who actually even promotes mass psychedelic disobedience. But then there's all the other areas of resonance between Extinction Rebellion and Boom Festival. I mean, there's an emphasis on both, on regenerative cultures, on courage, on non-violence, on peace, on challenging convention, on challenging injustice worldwide. There's an emphasis on radical democracy and collective intelligence. In Extinction Rebellion, we are a decentralized movement. I feel part of this movement. We're fighting for climate and ecological and social justice the world over, and we're basically asking governments and media to tell the truth, to act now. And we don't accept any technocratic or populist bullshit solutions. We don't want a technocracy. We don't want something which is some sort of green capitalism with a lot of greenwashing and exclusively decided by experts. Experts in what? In your own self-serving interests? No thank you, fuck off. We're all bad enough, don't have time for that crap. We don't want populist bullshit solutions either. We want to live, we want to survive, we want to regenerate, we want to sort of use this crisis to survive, to become better, if possible, and it is possible. So, my friends, I don't know what went wrong, but Extinction Rebellion is an international movement. We're asking for a higher level of democracy via a methodology called Citizen Assembly, which is beautiful. This channel has a lot of videos on the subject in Spanish. Feel free, please, to learn a bit more about citizen assemblies, or just look up information on Extinction Rebellion. I mean, there's also a strong emphasis on art, performance, creativity, dramatization. It's so compatible with Boom. Okay, so that's my rant on that. I can't believe there weren't any talks, workshops, encouragement, to build on this amazing opportunity. But anyway, I hope in next editions there's more explicit connections, because we really need them. Okay, a few other general critiques. Yes, well, basically less people. Everybody's saying that. 40,000 this time. The established number for last editions had been about 33,333 people. That sort of felt right, okay? I mean, a lot of us who were there were sort of way more comfortable with that, and it's quite easy to agree that, less people is better management of resources. Understandably, Boom had to catch up financially, but however, it's also more expensive to pay for more water, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm not aware of your finance and your numbers, but I don't think 40,000 people using public water, from the public grid of Portugal, I don't think that is as good as 33,000 people drinking from that water. So I think also out of respect for Portugal, although Boom, I believe, I hope, is a good thing for Portugal, I believe and I hope it is, but we should think about the water for the country as well. Okay, third critique, more shade. I don't want to be unfair because I admire the reforestation program of Boom so much. It started in 2015, from what I know, and they have planted no less than 925 trees and 120 shrubs of locally adapted species. But this has to speed up. And I say this to Boom, and I say this to all of us. It is becoming progressively harder to establish new gardens, orchards, food systems, and reforestation, and applying permaculture design, and I would say syntropic agriculture, integrating agriculture with forestry, so-called agroforestry. All this is, yes, it's just more urgent than ever, and for many reasons, but one I want to highlight is just imagine we keep having these droughts and we keep having these heat waves. I mean, it's really hard to establish new trees, shrubs, plants, and soil regeneration systems if it's so damn hot and the water is so scarce, humidity is being lost so quickly. So yes, have to speed up the good job that is already being done. Personally, I love the shade of poplar trees, especially of the, Populus alba. They are the ones that are right by the liminal village, and I think anybody who had a nap in the shade of those amazing trees would agree that they're the best shade trees. They have this beautiful rustling sound with the wind, and they let the wind through. So I mean, that was the most cooling area to be of all, I think. And I think all of the Albert Hoffman Avenue could be covered in shade within a few additions, because these trees are very fast growing and they love being close to the water. So and they tolerate heat pretty well as well. So they're very cool, I would say, easy trees to place strategically. Anyway, I'm sure you could also come up with more shade structures that will keep us all cooler and teach people a lesson in surviving climate breakdown, because Boom, you're constantly teaching us. We are constantly teaching each other through Boom. We learn so much, but there is room for more, and definitely more shade is needed. Okay, so then into my last critique, the grounding break. The grounding break, for those who weren't there, is a really nice, cool way of naming when the music stops, okay? So, I mean, as this started as a psytrance festival, and you were sort of, it was totally okay to be high. It's encouraged to be high because it's a nice, grounded and also safe environment, or that's what we're all trying to have. It's also cool to be high during the midday and then lunch, and then, wow, you're finally so tired at 4 o'clock or 5 or 6 that's when you really are fit to stop. And so the grounding break, the moment of total silence, the moment for total rest between one music session and the other, has usually been from late afternoon to early night. Now, there's also been a lot of talk about this on social media, and I would say grounding break, we have to accept the situation we're in. It's just unbearably hot at midday, and it's risky, it's dangerous, it's not healthy. I don't care what drugs you're on, to be dancing full on in the sunlight at 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock with maybe 40 degrees, I mean, it's a perfect context for heat strokes and accidents, folks. I mean, sorry, but yeah, we have to think about this. So I would suggest having the grounding break at a more reasonable climate change adapted time that would be maybe between 13 hours and 17 hours. Okay, so this is my personal review of Boom 2022. I can't really put everything I felt and experienced into a video. I hope you enjoyed my reflections. Thank you so much for sharing with other Boomers, with other people outside the festival. This goes beyond Boom. I mean, I love this event, but I'm also aiming at the culture of transformational festivals in general. Folks, we really need them. We need to keep the mood up. We need to learn a lot. We need to celebrate, have fun. We need to regenerate everything from soil to relationships. And the best way of doing that is integrating fun, getting high, wonderful music, wonderful resting, regenerating, a nice massage, check-ins, workshops that teach you cool stuff, workshops that teach you practical stuff, things that get you really, really imagining. This is what we most need the planet over. It's not that important if it's in Boom, Portugal, Idana Nova. It's really important that we experience this collectively. Okay, so I would like to say thanks to all of you. Thanks to all the people I met. Thanks to all the people who were kind, helpful, supportful. Thanks to the organizers. Thanks to the volunteers. You guys were fucking amazing. Thank you, Portugal. Muito obrigado. Muito obrigado. And you can be so, so, so proud of yourself, Portugal. You really can. Thank you to all the amazing, beautiful Portuguese people who collaborate, and make this into reality. Well, and just as an ending note from myself, I'd like to say that I once gave a talk at Boom. My profession is astrology. I've studied astrology for 23 years, been in practice for the last 15, and I gave a talk in 2014 called Awakening Astrological Awareness. It's linked at the end of this video. If you're anywhere attracted to astrology, I think it was a really good talk. And the rest of this channel is mostly in Spanish, but some interviews and videos are in English. I've got a really cool interview with Vandana Shiva herself, the wonderful Vandana Shiva, who actually spoke at Boom, who is actually also involved with Extinction Rebellion. And anyway, so much love. Thank you for being kind with all our incoherences. Thank you, planet. Thank you, Boomland. We are learning. We are here to support each other. And as is said on the wristband, commit to awaken the world.